Okay, so we're going to look at network issues and communication and identify and describe the issues surrounding networks. Now, then for silver, you're going to research data protection in your country. And then we're going to complete basically various exam questions based on networks, so based on a topic of networks. And obviously you're going to research data protection in Spain, okay? Or if anybody's watching this from a different country, then in your country. So computer networks are beneficial in many, many terms. So for example, we have in our school one IT room, and that one IT room has 26 computers. Now, because it's networked, we can have one printer in the classroom. If it wasn't networked, then it'd have to be, 26 different printers for 26 different computers, okay, which obviously is very expensive and takes up a lot of space and really is a complete waste of time, okay? Complete waste of time and complete waste of money. And obviously, if the computer wasn't networked, then you would have to make sure that every lesson you're on the same computer so you can access your work. Now, as you know, when you come into the classroom, sometimes the computers just don't work. Okay, computers break down after a certain amount of time and they just don't work. Okay, now, but the problem is with networks is they are a target for various security issues. And those reasons for those is because they know how much information a network can contain. So if we think about banks computers are networked, and think about the information that they have. Now, by connecting computers to a network and sharing the data, it's easy, but it does make them vulnerable to hackers. So anyone sharing personal information such as bank details, they want to be sure that their information is obviously safe and secure in that network. And there are ways to make that information safe and secure. Now, most businesses and organizations to begin with employ network managers or administrators, and it is their job to put the security policies and procedures in place to make sure that the information is safe. Okay, so if we think about our school network alone, now what you probably think about is, well, it's all that's on the school network is my work. Why would anybody want that? Well, they don't really. But what we do have on a school network, obviously, is all your personal information, your parents' personal information, obviously how your parents pay the fees, when they pay their school fees. And so they will have, bank account details, plus the school's bank account details. And, they've got lots of information about people that hackers will want, okay, for like identification, theft, and so on. So now, viruses. Now, viruses are computer programs that are designed and obviously submitted by people that have designed them. And they've designed them basically to steal data, okay, or destroy data in some cases. So viruses are created to destroy or steal data. And these are programs that can cause damages to computers. So like, for example, we've got worms, and what worms do is they will copy files and send them back to the person who made the worm. Then we've got zombies, then we've got Trojans, and we've got spy bots, and these are all designed to basically destroy or steal your data. Okay, so like, for example, some viruses are designed to, record your keystrokes, because obviously when you go on to, say, for example, if you want to go to your online banking, if you was to type in your password and your login, well, they can't see that because it's encrypted. But what they can do is they can record your keystrokes. So like, for example, they may record www.bankinter.es, and then whatever your login is, whatever your password is. So that's one of the reasons why banks now allow you to access your account using your fingerprints, biometrics, or even your voice. Now, to prevent viruses, and the software is designed to detect and block attacks, and obviously this is antivirus software. Now, some operating systems have their own inbuilt antivirus software, but you can purchase antivirus software. So in this instance, it would be the network manager would be able to make sure that the computers under their control are secure and the antivirus systems are up to date. Now, new viruses are being made all the time. And all the antivirus software is simply a database that says, that basically records what's coming in. And if it matches what's on the database, it doesn't allow it to come in. Okay, and then obviously what the antivirus software will do to promote itself as well is to tell you how many viruses that they've blocked. Now, another way to protect the system as well is firewalls. Now, firewalls are both hardware and software. And what they do is they protect a computer network from intruders. So they make sure intruders don't come in. So that what they do is they control what data can and cannot pass through the network. Okay, so now a firewall can either be hardware or software. So it may sound great that a firewall is software because it will be cheaper to buy, it's easy to install, okay? And where with hardware is always expensive to buy, plus you've got to buy the cabling and so on to go with it. But the good thing about the hardware firewall is it works much faster than the software one. Now, large corporations will have hardware firewalls. And what they will have is they will have layers and layers of firewalls to make sure that obviously nobody is getting in. So once you go through one firewall, you have to pass through another and another. So then the data that's coming through is being checked and being checked and being checked again. And obviously, if you was to wait for a software to do that, it's going to take a hell of a long time. But hardware, it can go through much quicker. So now, secure passwords. Now, this is obviously a very simple method, and obviously it's very obvious, but you'll be amazed at the amount of people that do not have secure passwords. And believe it or not, I think it was password with a small p, 123 was the most commonly used password in the world. So more than one person obviously has to have access to a computer network. Now, obviously in schools and large corporations, particularly large corporations such as banks and hospitals and places like that, you've got to make sure that the passwords are secure. So each individual user will be given a login and a password to access the network. So this will also help the network managers trace any activity. So whether it's unusual or whether it's not unusual, obviously. Now, people that work for a corporation obviously can be the enemy, and they may be out and up to no good to steal data. So, or maybe they're just not doing their jobs. Okay, so when you log into a network, we know who's logged in. We know exactly when you logged in, what computer you logged into, and obviously everything you do on that computer is recorded. And within networks as well, they sometimes have software where certain words come up that shouldn't be coming up, like for example, gambling, it will alert the network managers. So a weak password will make it easy for someone to try and guess your login details. Now, a good password will have upper and lowercase letters and numbers and special characters, but usually in networks, they will have a set format that you basically have to abide by. So that might be like one uppercase letter, a minimum of 6 characters, and must not be your name is typical. Okay? Now, levels of access. Now, just because you have got a login and a password to a network doesn't mean to say that you've got access to everything. Okay, so there are certain servers that will have certain amounts of information that you can't access. So, for example, like maybe working in a hospital, the office workers will have levels of access to certain things, but there's other things they may not have access to, such as a patient's confidential details they may not have access to. but then someone else working up higher in that office that may work directly with doctors will have that information. And obviously in schools, there are several drives with different types of information on. And there's drives that I have access to, like I will have access to my drive. I will have an access to a teacher shared drive. But if there's a drive specifically for the office with confidential information on there about, you know, individuals that work in the school, then obviously as a teacher, I don't have access to that. Now, a large company in a school, many people will be using the computers on the same network, okay? The network manager will normally control the level of access to the people, you know, to people have on the network. Now, general users will not, like for example, as a teacher, I do not have the ability to download any software or make changes to any part of the computer system at all, okay? And as a student, you don't have that ability. Now, obviously, I've worked in schools as well where the students do not have access to the control panel. They cannot change the backgrounds on the screen, and they cannot change their mouse pointer. They cannot change anything, okay? But then in some schools, maybe you do. So the administrator level, however, will have the ability to change everything, and they will have access to everything. So obviously, as an administrator, a network administrator, they will have access to all of the information. Right, so now, data protection does go beyond the building of a corporation, okay? There are laws in place in countries globally, okay? Now, obviously, these laws will vary from country to country. So personal information stored in a network must be protected. So as I said, you know, there's some very, very personal information. Banks have your name, your address, your date of birth, your phone number, your email address, where you work, the money that goes into your account, the money that comes out of your account, your bank balance. They have basically very, very sensitive personal information. Hospitals, your doctors, for example, will have any information about you, your name, your address, your gender, your, you know, all the medical problems that you have or have had in the past, which is highly sensitive information that you don't want everybody to know about. So now, due to there's been in the past abuse and neglect of people's personal information and information being sold and intercepted, that this has prompted global laws to take place and make sure that they protect people's information that's used for monetary gains. Okay, there's been so many different cases, so where people's privacy has basically been exposed. So that these laws have got to protect people's data. So now these laws do vary from country to country, but there are common themes. Like for example, years ago, I mean, like, as everything was going online, for example, some banks were disposing of information just using normal rubbish bins, which is highly unacceptable, okay, because then people's personal information was there in a bin for somebody to find. You know, there was massive cases in the UK of celebrities' phones being bugged and then their information basically being put in papers. So, you know, there are laws that protect people from countries. And obviously there was the Facebook scandal where they've intercepted the microphone on your phone and targeted ads at you. So now, these are the legislations that are common throughout most countries. How the data may be used and who it can be shared with. Individual choice about what information is collected about them and how it may be used. So like, for example, when you sign up to something online, they may say, can we pass your details to another company so they can promote offers at you? And obviously you can say no to that. Individuals' access to information stored about them and whether it can be amended or deleted. And obviously this is a serious one, because there's, you know, information that can be kept about you and it can be incorrect, and that can have terrible consequences. Okay, absolutely terrible consequences on people. And then there's other things that can be just simply be annoying. So, for example, I remember one time someone collected my information about me and said I'd had an accident, and I kept getting phone calls about accidents, and I didn't have one. So that's obviously a small thing, but then, you know, there could be information stored about me to say that I've got a criminal record when I don't. And then, you know, I could end up losing my job. And if I try to get a job in another school, I can't because I've got a criminal record, which I don't have. So that's why the information has to be amended or deleted if it's incorrect. The requirements for organisations handling personal information to protect it. Okay, so they are making sure that organisations that have your information have to protect it. They're putting that responsibility on them. And then the requirements that personal information should not be sent to another country unless they have a similar legislation in place as the original country. Now, you're probably thinking, why was my information be sent to another country? Well, it does. So, for example, a lot of banks in the UK have call centres. So when you need to contact the bank about something, you know, about your account details, you know, like maybe if you're taking out a loan, or if you've got an overdraft, or if you've got a credit card you need to pay, when you actually phone these people, the call centre is not in the UK. The call centre can be in India or in the Philippines. So yes, your personal information can be sent to a different country. So if you're with that bank and their call centre is in the Philippines or is in India, well, then that's where your information is. So, but obviously the legislation says that unless they actually have legislation in place that's similar to the UK, then it cannot be sent over. Okay, so that's it. Right, now, the exam questions for my students are obviously on Google Classrooms, or if you want to, look in the description of this video and you can download the exam questions directly from the link under this video. Okay, very best of luck.